Hi. Hello, everybody at home, too. You're here in our hearts because we're all together in this. It's the most amazing part of this whole idea of dis-ease, of plague, of contagion, of pandemic, is that it has erased any delusion of separation, right? That we're all in this together, right? And caring for each other, as Dan mentioned earlier too, about our time of community. This is a time that we can access the whole quantum field and understand that no matter space, no matter distance, no matter seeming differences, we're all together as one. We're all here in the physical world and beyond the physical world. I started last week with our series on unity metaphysics, and last week we talked about God. What is God? What is the nature of God? What is the idea, the energy that we call God? And talked to us about how to move from God as a static noun to God as a verb. Right? That I'm using my God power to affect the world. That God is the creative force that is life itself. And that we are part of it. And that we get to co-create. We are co-creating at every moment, whether we're conscious of it or not. Whether we're asleep to the reality that we are creating, or we're awake to the possibility and to the potential and to the life force itself that we are emanating. So what do we want to do in this moment? Do we want to retreat into our own homes, into our own consciousness and take care of us? Or do we want to be the light? Right? Do we want to consciously choose to be the light the world most desperately needs right now? And as I mentioned before the song, we get to choose from the infinite potential of potentialities, all the potentialities before us. Which one do we want? Do we want the fear and the disease? Or do we want to see that curve flattening? Do we want to see the wholeness and the health and the vitality of each individual coming into manifestation right now? I don't think it's any accident that the children of this world at the moment from this virus seem immune. Right? They seem immune. And the verse, to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must become like one of the children. To be in heavenly state, the divine mind state right now, is to be pure, to see clearly and wholly the truth of the person sitting next to you, standing across from you. The people we're in relationship with, the people that we are sitting next to at home, sleeping next to, dining with. There is no separation except in our mind, except in our thinking. And what happens when we can bridge that seeming separation is truly miraculous. So this week, I wanted to talk about healing. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, God, for the talk. And quantum healing, understanding what we're going to pick, what we're going to choose. Right? Understanding the wholeness. Unity was started in the 1880s by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, our co-founders. It's all right. I love your ringtone, by the way. It's really nice. It was just like, okay, that's a nice wake-up call. That's a nice reminder. It's not jarring. And understanding that we can take either the jarring wake-up call that this pandemic is, or we can choose a nicer ringtone for us to remind us to stand, to sit, to be in our practice all the time. Myrtle Fillmore started Unity because she heard a speaker say that I am a child of God and I do not inherit disease. Now, the understanding in the 1800s was that tuberculosis was inherited. And Myrtle was told from the time she was very little that she had tuberculosis and that she was frail and weak. And that's how her life manifested. was frail and weak. But when she heard that new thought speaker, E.B. Weeks was his name, say, I am a child of God and I do not inherit disease. That whole paradigm of inheriting tuberculosis was flipped on its head. Now we know today that tuberculosis is not inherited, it's transmitted. A germ, just like the virus that's going around right now. But at the time, the belief was powerful, very powerful. And I wonder in 100 years, what we do in the name of medicine today, how we will look at it. If the same naivete exists in our medical practices today. But I'm not putting them down. I wanted to be really clear. I'm grateful for the doctors and the medicines and the advancement in science. They're necessary for our life here on the planet to keep evolving. And that's what we get to do consciously, to keep evolving. So Myrtle went home from that lecture and started a practice of blessing her body. She started apologizing to her every part of her body, every muscle, every joint, every cell, saying, I am sorry that I ever called you weak. I am sorry that I ever dismissed you or thought you not good enough. And started a process of affirming her health. And one of Myrtle's favorite prayers was, I'm going to blank on it, of course, but it was like, God is my source in every need. God does my every hunger feed. God walks beside me every day. God is my strength. I cannot be sick. Unfailing, quick. And understanding that there was no separation from her. She used a dualistic, God walking beside her. It was the time, it was the prayer. But there was a truth to it, a power in it, understanding that I cannot be sick. In 1988, I was diagnosed HIV positive. And luckily, at the time, I had found Louise Hay and the writings of New Thought from our friends in religious science at the time. She was a religious science practitioner. And I understood that I was choosing. And I started the affirmation process. I am whole. I am healthy. What we sang earlier. And that change enabled me to go through the last 32 years of this seeming diagnosis of illness and disease, always whole and healthy. Always whole and healthy. And I want to apply the same principle, that same quantum choice of which outcome we want to this moment, to this understanding that we get to choose with our affirmations, with our thoughts, but also with our feelings. Right? I knew somehow there was joy still to be experienced, life still to be lived, and I had to see it in my feeling nature. And that's why I love music so much. There is the chord choices, the instrumental choices that happen affect how we feel. And that's why this group over here and these are some of the most important things we do here, to shift how we feel, to change the world. Because, as Joe Dispenza wrote in Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, if we cannot think greater than how we feel, we can never change. To change is to think greater than how we feel. To change is to act greater than familiar feelings of the memorized self. So if this moment finds you in fear and retreat, if it finds you worried and very anxious, the absolute pinnacle of choice in this moment is to think and to affirm past the fear, right? You can feel it. But the music, the affirmations, washing your hands with that wonderful little ditty can literally shift your feeling nature. Singing, as we know, changes your physicality because you're forced to breathe in. So for those of you at home, when we do our next congregational song, I really invite you to sing along with us at home. If you're alone, no one will care. The rest of your family is listening to you. Good. Maybe they'll join you and sing with us. And if you're watching this later in the week, sing along with us. Because that act of taking in air and changing how our emotional life is unfolding is how we choose differently. If we succumb to the feelings, we are stuck in the feelings. And they become a groove, and then they become a rut. And we default to that feeling side. We can choose greater than our initial feelings. We can choose greater than how we're currently living. The word heal, I love this, is a transitive verb. It implies it has to be in action, that there's some movement going on in it. Just like we talked about God as a verb, heal, healing is a verb that takes us someplace from where we are to where we could be. And it is not a static, one-time operation. Healing is a process that we enter into consciously by affirming I am whole, by affirming I am well, and affirming I do not inherit illness. I do not receive this illness. I like to always say it, it's really bad grammar, but I say, I don't do sick. I don't do sick. So that when the colds and the flus and everything is being passed around, it's like, all right, it's okay. I don't do sick. I don't have time for it. It's all right. It's a choice. And even when I do catch something, I still affirm I don't do sick, meaning that I'm going to get through this quickly. I'm going to just go right through it. I'm not going to linger here. It's not a place I'm setting up camp, right? So it's to make free from injury or disease, to make sound or whole. Injury. Louise Hay, who I mentioned earlier, was the first person I'd ever heard talking about disease as dis-ease. Separating the word and understanding that I'm in distress. I am not at ease. And that's what causes our body to break down. That's what causes our systems not to function properly. Your body knows exactly how to heal. Do you know this? That the innate wisdom within you, the divine within you, already knows how to heal you from everything. But when we are not at ease, when our vibrational field, when our whole being is distressed, our body can't do what it's designed to do. I was describing this to Roma, my 4-year-old daughter, recently, when she got a cut, right? And how distressing that is for a child to get a scraped knee or a cut sometimes. In that moment, though, I pointed out to her that the body is already healing. The moment we have a cut or a laceration, the body is instantly starting to scab it over to stop the blood flow, and the healing process has already begun. So the healing process is at work right here on the planet, this very moment. Do we get that? That we're not in the middle of disease. We're in the middle of the healing process of the planet. Right? We're not in the middle of disease. We're in the quantum field where everything is possible. And how do we heal it? So how do we align our principles, our knowing, our knowledge, so that we can step forth into this world and make the channels of energy all align to wholeness, to health, to vitality? The world, the universal intelligence knows at this moment how this dissipates, how this pandemic shifts, and how we all live our lives. I almost said return to normal, and that's not what we return to, because what we've been doing has caused this. Let me be really clear. What we have been doing has caused this pandemic. Each and every one of us here personally have a part in it. Because just like Myrtle, we've been telling ourselves and others that they're wrong or bad or foreign or evil. Look at it in our national discourse. We build a wall to keep them out. This is a foreign entity. Look at it how we talk about our politicians. How we roll our eyes, how we say hateful things about them. They're other human beings on the planet. And we make them not only wrong for their beliefs, but bad people because of them. But this pandemic knows no borders, knows no artificial line on the ground. I was skiing at Tahoe this week. Roma was out of school, so we went up. Let's go up skiing for a couple days. And we were on top of one of the mountains to ski, and you could see where we were staying in our hotel. It was on the California side, and then so the next block was Nevada. But there's no line on the ground. There's no indication that this is another state. There's no indication that there's any separation from any of us. We've decided that that we're separate, that we're not the same, that the laws of Nevada and the laws of California are different. But the universal laws of cause and effect and of the quantum laws of physics don't know any of that. In this moment, we have to genuinely look at how we've been calling others names, how we've been condemning our fellow brothers and sisters across the globe and sitting right next to us sometimes in our family, in this community, in the city. How are we using those words of hatred, of condemnation, of better than, less than, to keep us all separate? Well, this virus has shown us that we're not. It has shown us that there is no reality to this idea of pulling up the moat, pulling up the bridge, surrounding ourselves by a moat, and hoping that everything will be okay. That's not what I want to go back to. I don't know about you, but I don't want to continue to look at people who have different color skin or come from a different place as somehow evil. Like the rhetoric against China, the rhetoric against Iran, the rhetoric against Hispanic immigration, the rhetoric against Republicans, the rhetoric against the Democrats, are all this part of this constant wear and tear on our psyches. Turn on the news, be prepared to be bombarded with how wrong the other one is. The other. Not like us, the other. We've got to protect ourselves because the other is coming. Look out. What has that done to us? Literally, what have we done to ourselves? I think we're getting the demonstration of that. And so like Myrtle, I have a solution for us. Something that we can do every moment. So like, I have no power over what other people do. I don't. You don't either. But we have power over what we do. And when we change our behavior, the situation changes. Right? The other person might change because we did. And it's not a game of telephone on who's going to hang up first. Let's just put down the negativity. Let's put down the violence of our speech, of our attitudes. So there's a Hawaiian practice called Ho'oponopono. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a practice, and the word Ho'oponopono actually means to make right, to align, to come back to wholeness, to set it right. And it's a simple process. So you say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. So what I'd like to invite you to do at this moment is to bring up in your mind's eye, whether you're at home or here, someone you have condemned. So don't, the first one that just came up when I said someone you've condemned, go with them. That's your big one. Swallow that frog first. The little ones will be easier then. Bring that person up in front of your face right now, in your mind's eye. And know this. Say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And then say thank you for that forgiveness. I love you. And notice how that love you may stick. It may feel harder to say depending on who you brought up in your mind's eye. But I didn't say you had to like them. Says you had to love them. And there's a huge difference in that. We're not condoning bad behavior. What we're doing is loving the divine expression in front of us. And let's be really clear too why this is powerful is you get to own your part in it. I am sorry. Or you can say I apologize if you don't want to attach sorry to I am. But I think I am sorry is really beautifully humble. I messed up. I chose wrongly. I chose hate or condemnation. I chose vengeance. I chose resentment over love. And to say I'm sorry for that. So once again, I invite you to bring up someone else. And this time to really know what you're apologizing for. Together. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And then one more. Turn to someone without getting out of your seat, without having to move. Just turn to someone here. I'm going to do. Brittany, hi. And you can take turns. I'll go first. Okay? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you.
Now, to all of the people right now in the world that we have excluded, that we have not let in, that we have somehow shunned or condemned, let's do this as a group all together. Bring up that image for yourself right now. And together we say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. So we can practice this simple saying all week. We can walk through life healing every relationship, every moment that the planet needs. Opono, pono. To put back right. To remember the wholeness. To set it correctly will enable us to stand up in the midst of this virus, in the midst of this pandemic, and love. To stand up in the midst of this political storm, in this political fight of who's right and who's wrong, to bring love to it rather than more discourse. To defy expectations, to challenge assumptions, and to lift ourselves beyond where we are to where we could be by choosing healing over hatred, choosing healing and wholeness over lack and worry, and choosing to heal ourselves and the world altogether. Thank you. Thank you.